And the wavetable position knob lets you morph through different waveforms in the selected table. With the intensity knob, you can tweak wavetable readout parameters depending on the selected mode. Check out what intensity does when in the bend modes. Use the pitch display to tune the oscillator up or down, adjusting it by semitones and cents. Just click, hold, and move your mouse up and down. You can jump whole octaves by pressing the Alt or Option key on your computer keyboard. The modulation oscillator's output can be used for ring, phase, and wavetable position modulation of the three main oscillators. This oscillator is the perfect tool for sculpting aggressive, cutting sounds. The noise section incorporates the sound of a noise generator into massive. Choose between different noise types with the pop-up menu, and change color and output with the knobs. The feedback section lets you reroute the signal from several different insert points back into the signal chain. The point that the signal is routed back from is defined on the routing page of the central window. Then we have the insert effects, which can be patched in at various points in the signal chain. Simply click one of the buttons labeled Insert 1 to select where the Insert 1 effect will be placed. Massive features two separate filter buses that can be routed in series or parallel or crossfaded between serial and parallel. You can insert one filter of any available type in each bus by selecting it from the Filter drop-down menu. On the right, you will find the master effects, which come at the very end of the signal chain. You can use the effects pop-up menus to choose the effects you want. The parameters controlled by the effects knobs depend on which effect you have selected and are labeled accordingly. On the very right of the master effects, you will find the master EQ and the master outputs above it. Now let's get back to our macro control knob assignments. Load the sound Rampage. Now take a look at Oscillator 1. The small yellow numbers beneath the control knobs indicate that the knobs are being controlled by macro controls 1 and 2, respectively. Yellow numbers indicate macro control assignments. Notice that macro control 3 is assigned to the cutoff of both filters, macro control 4 to the resonance of both filters, and macro control 5 is assigned to the dry-wet parameter of the flanger. The macro control's range of influence over the parameter it is affecting is proportional to the size of the corresponding yellow ring around the control. For example, we can see that the influence of macro control 2 on the intensity knob is greater than that of the green modulation source, indicated by the number 6. The different color tells us that this modulation source is not a macro control, but an LFO, which are color-coded green. The blue 2 refers to an envelope generator. The different LFOs and envelopes, which have the same color, are at the top of Massive's central window. Just click on envelope number 2 or LFO number 6 to access and change their respective parameters. The stepper is basically a step sequencer. With it, you can define a certain number of steps, each with a specific amplitude value. Pressing Alt or Option on your computer keyboard while setting a step value with the mouse quantizes to 12 equal steps for working with exact semitone intervals and is therefore perfect for generating melodic pitch modulations. As we can see, the stepper amount is controlled by Macro Control 8. The performer is similar to the stepper, but it allows you to create much more complex sequences. Here, you can generate step-sequenced rhythms using curves instead of simple vertical bars. However, we know the performer is not assigned because there is no green number 7 to be seen anywhere. So let's assign the performer real quickly. Let's say we want the performer to modulate the EQ's high shelf parameter. First of all, click on Load Curve. Here, you can select the curves you want to draw with your mouse. Click on a curve and draw it. Then click the Load Curve button again and set the output amount and the rate of the performer. Now, click on the EQ tab and turn the EQ on. Beside each modulator or macro control, you will find a small cross, the modulation handle. Click on the modulation handle next to the performer. The small green number 7 attaches itself to your mouse. Now click into the EQ's first modulation slot. The number attached to your mouse will vanish and reappear within the box. The performer is now assigned to that parameter and will modulate the high shelf frequency. Before the performer can have any effect, the modulation depth must be set. In other words, the amount by which the performer modifies the parameter's value. Click the modulation slot you inserted the number into with the mouse and drag the mouse upwards. A green ring will appear around the parameter, showing the amount of the modulation. Changing the knob's position will also affect the modulation range. If you now play your note, you will hear the changes. Last but not least, we want to assign the performer to Macro Control 8, where the step sequencer is currently assigned. Click on the Step Sequencer tab, then right-click on the number 8 and select Off. Now, Macro Control 8 no longer controls the step sequencer modulation amount. Keep in mind that multiple controller and modulation assignments are not a problem for Massive. Click on the performer and then click on the yellow modulation handle of Macro Control 8 and drop it into the performer's amp parameter box. Turn the knob to 0 and adjust the modulation depth. Finally, use Macro Control 8 to control the effect. We hope you enjoyed this brief tour of Massive and that you now have a better understanding of how Massive works and, moreover, the true potential of this stunning synthesizer. As this tour really only touched the surface, please refer to the manual for a more in-depth explanation of Massive's functionality and feature set.